here to talk about a new project in Melbourne from JCB Architects. I've got Chris Spottle. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Tell me about the Arbory Bar. What were you doing?
The Arbory Bar started about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a process of a renewal of a space that had been sort of left to effectively become unused and a rubbish trap and sort of unuseful in a very sort of important space in Melbourne. And so we were approached by the HQ group to effectively revitalise this space in conjunction with Metro and there's some of their initiatives to basically to provide a space that people could then, as an alternate route in many ways, coming along the Yarra River and into that space.
Okay, so it's along the Yarra River. It's in Melbourne, so it's a pretty cool area, as we know. It was a bit run down, a bit desolate. So where are we? Near Flinders Street Station? Is that kind of?
It's adjacent to. It's on the old Sandhurst Ridge train line. It's adjacent to platform 13, which is the Broadmeadows line. So, and it's a small slither of land. It's approximately 6 metres wide by about 120 metres wide. And one of the great aspects about it, not only has it got the view to the Yarra River, but it's also got the amazing plane trees, the mature plane trees that really sort of started off the whole thing.
Okay, so and your job really was to say this is a great space. It is run down. It is dilapidated. How do we make this for people? How do we redesign this for the community? So how did you go in there? How did you start tackling this project?
I mean, at a very high level, there's a lot of pragmatics that went into it. There's a whole lot of complex issues in terms of site and leaseholds and relationships with sort of major key stakeholders. And that was one of the first things. We just had to get an understanding of where we couldn't sort of travel. So that was the first thing. And then sort of realising an idea in terms of design, how we could sort of maintain a relationship with the station, but also get all those qualities of the plane trees in the Yarra River. So. And one of the things, the key drivers about that space is the way people move through that and how we could actually create a journey along that Yarra River, because that's such an important thing in terms of the way one responds to the river. So that's always been an undermining one.
So you never wanted to say we're going to be this island in the midst of all of this. You're actually trying to create connections, very strong connections between the station, between the Yarra, between the journey, between the two.
But in a very sort of abstract manner, and that's the form of the building is completely sort of abstract in terms of its relationship to the river and also to the sort of heritage listed platform canopies and things like that. So it's a very sort of sensitive site in terms of that. So what we did is something that was very abstract but responded to all those sort of qualities.
So more than just the users and people who will have a drink or a beer there, who did you actually have to work with to create the sorts of dialogue that you needed to have to put something like this in place in that location?
I mean, most people do just go there to have a beer and food, but I suppose...
You can buy me a beer later, mate.
That's all right. But I mean, in terms of all the people you like, the council and things like that. I mean, the council were very sensitive to it. They were nervous about what was going to happen there. We went through various iterations of what the design was, but I mean, fortunately, they were on board with the concept pretty much from the start. But it was just a matter of managing those sensitivities.
Okay, so you had to get them over the line, and I imagine many others as well. There are a lot of bars in Melbourne. I'm clued into this. This is a place that is famous for its bars. So it's a reasonably crowded marketplace, but so there needs to be a point of difference. What is it that this does?
At the start of the project, no one knew how it was going to go. It was going to be an absolute raging success or to the contrary, and unfortunately it's been the former. You're absolutely right. There's bars everywhere in Melbourne. There's a great culture of people going to a new bar. There's a lot of ways of promoting new bars and things like that. One of the things on this particular site that was vulnerable was the where the south-facing, predominant winds from the southwest and things like that. So one of those sort of pragmatic things that really turn people off from sitting there and enjoying that. But fortunately, as it turns out, I mean, the trees have provided a lot of protection, more than we probably anticipated, and just using those natural elements. Even on the northerlies, when it gets really hot, the trains provided some of those protective elements. The train stations provided those protective elements. So that's been really, really good. Yeah,
but even though it is a crowded marketplace, the advantage that you have there is also the location, regardless of the
there's no question that the river is, it's absolutely amazing to look across the South Bank and all that sort of thing now, which we never used to be able to really do. There's nowhere along the Yarra River where you can actually appreciate that.
Oh, so it opens up. It actually opens up to a new vista, basically. That
Absolutely,
wasn't there
it's a brand new vista that Melbourne's never experienced other than from the train platforms.
What would you do differently through that process? And I don't just mean how you designed it to make it open up to the waterfront, but in terms of how you managed the project, design, I suppose the thinking that you had to do.
The thinking was reasonably straightforward. It was about housing a whole lot of pragmatic things into something that was appealing. It could change and be, as certain through the seasons, very responsive to the seasons. There's not a lot I think we would change necessarily. I think it was we're actually going to try and now take that same module and move it around the same parts of the Yarra River and expand it. So it's actually been a really successful model. In terms of, because there's obviously a lot of issues with construction and things like that in such a difficult site. So that's actually been proven to be really successful, cost effective, and obviously,
Okay, so this model can be adapted and taken elsewhere.
Absolutely.
So there's more beer to be had along the Yarra.
We've been approached by VicTrack and other sort of parties like that to actually start looking at some of these options elsewhere.
Okay, great.
Which is pretty exciting.
So, where's your favourite spot to sit in? What time of day, I suppose, to have a drink?
Between 1 and 2, or 5 and 6. But I favour the eastern end just because I like the journey into the site. That was always a really important part of that. There's that sense of journey coming through the plane trees at ground level and then sort of rising up into that space. So that's always, if anyone comes along with me to visit the bar, I always go east end.
All right, I'll see you in 5 hours. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot.